in that
No.
tweet?
What's up, everybody? It's NFL Draft Diamond's owner, Damond Talbot. We're live for the first time, and I have a couple sidekicks with me. I have DraftGuyJimmy, who many of you have already known about doing the YouTube podcasts and the YouTube shows with all the Zoom interviews with the NFL draft prospects. Make sure you follow him at DraftGuyJimmy on Twitter, and make sure you're following him. And then I got my guy over here to the I don't know what side he is of me. On here, it's to the right, but on the left, maybe on your end. But Craig Forrestal, who is the owner and operator of That Sports Guy podcast. He's done some awesome interviews as well. Make sure you check it out. Make sure you follow and subscribe to his channel as well. And let's talk draft, guys. How you guys doing tonight?
Pretty good. What about you?
Hey, no complaints on my end, man.
Doing fine on my end. I mean, everything's coming together for sure. So,
awesome, man.
so yeah, I mean, obviously, each of you guys both. You're like in Florida, right? Like both of you guys. Is that where you're located?
Yep,
actually.
Yeah,
We have to distinguish between this because some people don't understand. Like we're all in different locations and all have different like fan bases. So, kind of neat. I like that. So.
Yeah, definitely. I'm in Central Florida. I live in Central Florida in a little town called Leesburg, Florida. It's amazing. There's about 40 people here, so it's great. Craig's in a little bit bigger city, right, Craig?
Yeah, and I live in Port St. Lucie, Florida, and Port St. Lucie is basically where South Florida ends and Central Florida begins.
That's right. And
Cool,
Jimmy, where are you
and
from,
I'm in
Jimmy?
Frederick, Maryland. So, right in the I guess, shadow of the nation's capital. So if anyone has any idea where that's at, all power to you. So cool.
Well, let's kick it off. Let's talk some draft. I know that the readers and the followers, they've been interested in a lot of different topics. Let's start it off with what we know best. I mean, we're sleeper guys. That's what we do. We watch film. We break down these guys that are small school guys, FBS conference guys, a whole bunch of everything. We had a whole bunch of FCS football on today with the playoffs. Let's talk about just sleepers. I mean, I know you all have somebody that you've fallen in love with, whether you interviewed them or whatnot. But let's just talk about a few guys. We'll start it off with one of you guys. Whoever wants to go first, don't all fight over it. But let's just talk about some sleepers, and I'll come in last and give a sleeper, and then we'll continue to talk about the draft process, any rumors or anything you're hearing. And if you have any questions or you're a fan or you want to drop any you feedback or you want to comment, let us know. We'll answer some questions as well. So let's go ahead and get started. One of you guys.
Well,
sleepers.
I don't think it's a big secret that I'm a pretty big fan of Robert Rochelle from Central Arkansas. Freaky athlete, 43-inch vertical. You saw what he did at the pro day, 4.3 40s. I mean, just put on an absolute show. But the athleticism translates to the field as well. You saw him at the Senior Bowl, was really able to stick around throughout the course of the week, always around the ball, always nagging guys, always making plays, just had a real consistent week. I thought at the Senior Bowl did a lot of good things for himself, and then followed it up with the pro day, like I said, the testing. I had a chance to talk to Robert earlier in the summer before COVID and everything had happened and the season was canceled. It was in July, I believe. And we actually talked about him possibly playing at the Senior Bowl. And I actually read a tweet to him that Jim Nagy had put out there about wanting to see more consistent effort from him on a play-to-play basis. And he took that criticism to heart. He said that was a goal of his, making sure that if that's something that the evaluators wanted to see was him going hard every play, that he was going to make sure that they didn't have those questions, come this time of the year with the draft coming around. And I think he really did take that to heart and showed that at the Senior Bowl. So for me, I'm a big Robert Rochelle cornerback out of Central Arkansas guy.
Cool. And
Yeah,
I guess
he is an awesome prospect.
Oh yeah, Rochelle, man. I want to say he might be in my top 100. I can't remember. like on my big board. So I do know that he's fairly high. I mean, I think some people might even he might even have a chance to go third round on that second day. I mean, that's totally possible. So especially with his speed and his potential, I totally feel like that's possible. So.
Who's your sleeper, Jimmy?
Cool. It might be a delay on my end, so sorry about that for you guys. I kind of wanted to get into like a sleeper, but I don't want to steal Damon's because I mean I kind of have in the back of my mind like who Damon might talk about. I'll just say like I was very blessed to actually sit down with a guy who is no longer a sleeper, and that's Quinn Miners. I know last summer I had the opportunity to sit with him. I don't think anyone knew of him as a draft prospect back then. And so now with all the hype, it's really hype from a D3 guy. I mean, how long has it been since we've actually had hype from a D3 guy that really has the opportunity to maybe be like, I don't know, like a top 50 pick, or if he continues to do so well, I mean, there's a possibility that he might end up going in the first round if somebody really, really, really falls in love with him. But I'm repping his shirt, so I just wanted to let you know. Definitely a great character. Wonderful athlete, great leader, former wrestler. Really was able to use like his understanding of leverages and things like there on the offensive line. Again, not so much a sleeper anymore. So another guy that I had kind of interviewed really around the same time was Kenny Randall. And that was one of the guys that, I don't know, just really stood out on tape. Like if you've ever watched this guy's game, he plays defensive tackle for Charleston of West Virginia. Kenny Randall is the kind of guy that, if you don't know who he is, I have a strong feeling that he can actually, get drafted. And you're talking about a D2 guy who really was able to shine and do just a fantastic job at his level of play. And, you turn on the tape and you're watching him, he's double teamed so much. And somehow with him being double teamed, he ends up getting double-digit sacks on a season, which is just mind-blowing. And then to come to find out, like, he's so athletic, off the field, doing things like backflips and dunks and whatever. I mean, he's just a fantastic athlete. People really need to know who Kenny Randall is for sure.
Yeah, he's not kidding. Kenny Randall is an animal. I've had a bunch of NFL teams hit me up on him already, just asking me, what I thought of him and if I've watched the film and broke it down, and I have, and he is fantastic. I'm going to go with a guy that we haven't really talked about a lot, and the reason is he actually played in the spring league. I'm going to go with Idaho linebacker Christian Ellis. Don't know if you guys know or aware of this or not. This may be news, but Christian Ellis is actually going to be entering the NFL draft, the 2021 NFL draft. And the cool thing about it is the NCAA, there's actually a little tiny flaw, if you would say, that's going to allow players to enter the draft that played in the spring league, that can try their hand, that can do what they, try to see if they're going to get drafted. But if they are not selected, they can actually return back to school. But the thing is you cannot hire an agent. So a guy like Christian Ellis is actually one of the main guys that I know that is not going to pursue the agent thing. As you know, his dad is Luther Ellis, who played for the Detroit Lions. Brothers Caden Ellis, who plays on the Saints right now. Christian Ellis is a player that all around, freak athlete, freaky player. And it's pretty amazing to see that this kid, potentially could go in the 5th to 7th round without an agent. I mean, that's pretty insane, but that's what we're looking at right now. So I'm going to go with him. I think he's a freak athlete. I'll tell you this. He went to a pro day 2 days removed from his game. This guy had been just coming off of a game. I mean, you're talking about beating up your body, and Christian Ellis shows up at the Idaho Pro Day, absolutely kills it. I had about 6 teams hit me up that day and just say, Where has this kid been? He's a freak. Wow, I can't believe it. We're going to have to go watch out film. So that would be my sleeper right now because no one's really talking about him. And there's only like one newspaper that even has the fact that he's going to try to go to the draft. So, and that's some little newspaper in Idaho, which I noticed this morning. So he's my guy there's a sleeper right now that you need to check out. Moving on, I think right now the big topic's these quarterbacks, man. There's so many amazing quarterbacks in the top. Let's go ahead. Let's think about like the top 5 QBs. Can you guys give me like your top 5 QBs in the NFL draft coming up? If there's a sleeper, if you want to add in a 6 and throw them in there, do that. I think it'd be fun because I think everybody's sporadic right now. I mean, there's Trevor Lawrence and then Zach Wilson and then everybody else. As obviously we're going to probably put those 2 in first because that's probably the way it's going to be drafted. But if you guys were to pick your top 5 quarterbacks, we'll start with Craig. Craig, who are your top 5 guys? Like, who would you pick? Let our viewers know, and maybe you'll throw in a guy that they don't even know. So let's hear it.
Yeah, for me, the top 5 isn't so much where I get interesting with my quarterback picks. For me, I like the mid to late round guys. So my top 5 is, I'm not going to say it's vanilla, but my top 4 is pretty consistent. Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, then Zach Wilson is my 4. 5th, I'm a big Davis Mills guy out of Stanford. I really like him. I think that he actually has a chance to sneak into the end of round 1 if there's a 5th quarterback with Tampa, just because you get that 5th year on the rookie deal with the first-round contract. It makes sense to have him there. You never know how long Brady's going to play. I feel like schematically he kind of fits what Bruce Arians wants to do. So that's me. But then outside of that, 2 guys I like later on. I'm a big fan of Brady Davis from Illinois State. He transferred from Memphis, showed that he had good control over a pro-style offense, run heavy, a lot of play action, good arm. Had 2 pro days. The first pro day was in some pretty bad weather. Second pro day, he bounced back, had a nice showing, was throwing to former NFL wide receiver Jordan Matthews. So all in all, it was a good showing from that day. And then also, I'm a big fan of Shane Buechele. Started off at Texas, set some records at Texas as a true freshman when he started there, transferred to SMU. As we all know, SMU has that reputation of being pass happy and kind of giving quarterbacks inflated numbers. But when you look at him between the numbers and with his accuracy, I feel like that's where you really, look at him as a guy that you could develop into a Case Keenum type of guy. Similar college system, similar build, quick release. I feel like you could get a pretty solid NFL backup out of Shane Buechele later on in the draft.
Now, before Jimmy jumps in, we have a question. I want to make sure Jimmy gets to answer this question because it's on his turn. So, Jimmy, Tim Bowman wants to know, what will Atlanta do? That's the start of the draft, buddy. Let's hear it, man. Break into Atlanta and then jump into your top 5 QBs. I just want to make sure that we answer Tim's question.
Sure. Well, this is kind of, at least for a lot of people, where the draft begins. And you really have a couple of options. So obviously there is this whole idea of maybe taking a quarterback there. I mean, Matt Ryan is getting a little older. So maybe perhaps like whoever is that 4th guy and whoever that is for you, whether it's Justin Fields or Trey Lance or Mac Jones, like whoever ends up landing there is that possibility. But the one thing that just keeps coming to mind for me again is, trying to figure out what's going to happen with Kyle Pitts. What's going to happen to him. I have him very high on my board. Let me figure out like my needs real quick because I was able to kind of work through this a little bit earlier today. So I think one of the things that they really could use, and don't get me wrong with this pick, so just hear me out. I think that Atlanta, given their situation, given the fact that I feel Matt Ryan's got a few more years left in him, honestly. I mean, he's really not that bad of a quarterback, once he's given time to do his thing. So hear me out. Penei Sewell. Okay. And that's kind of a crazy thing to think about because they don't really need a tackle. In my opinion, they don't need a tackle, but Penei Sewell could be an excellent guard. And I'm not trying to knock, to knock Penei Sewell. I think that would be an excellent fit for him in that system as a guard. I mean, it's crazy to think that you might draft a guard that high at number 4, but I personally feel like that is their biggest need on that offensive line. It's kind of a shocker for a lot of people, but that's kind of where I feel he fits best, honestly. People really like him. I mean, he's very athletic, has a quick punch, a very strong guy. Some people are knocking him maybe a little bit like on his mobility, but again, like I'm not knocking him when I say, guard might be his perfect fit in the NFL. So that's kind of what I would do if I was the Falcons. I know that might not be the sexy pick, but hey, you can't go wrong with a lineman who's going to be an all-pro, several times throughout his career. So you might as well pick the right guy.
All right. Good answer there. That would be a good one for them, for real. I mean, they protect Matt Ryan at all costs. So Jimmy, go ahead. Let's your top 5 QBs.
Top 5 QBs. I mean, I think the first few let's just say the first 2 are probably undisputable for most people. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson. But then after there, then we're running into, the rumors are that Mac Jones is going to possibly go to the 49ers, which I don't know how I feel about that, because personally I feel like Mac Jones is he's still kind of new. Like, he hasn't been a starter for that long, and that's part of the reason why I would probably put Justin Fields at number 3. Very athletic guy. I mean, quite honest, I don't know why like this whole news of him and maybe some of the negatives that people are throwing out about him. Like, I don't know where that's coming from, but it just seems like each and every year there's some player that just keeps getting bad, publicity to some extent. And I personally just don't feel like he deserves it. I mean, he's a very good quarterback, very athletic quarterback. And, quite honestly, if Zach Wilson's, BYU didn't really explode and have a magical season, who knows if we would even be talking about him as a first rounder. And then it would go Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields. No one would even bat an eye at that and have any issues with it. So, again, I would go Lawrence, Wilson, Fields. And then after that, I really don't know. I mean, I think that a lot of people really want to put Trey Lance up there because of his athleticism. So it's kind of a toss-up between Trey Lance and Mac Jones. Mac Jones obviously, took his team, won a national title. That's all well and good, but I still feel like there's still room for improvement. I don't think that he can be a starter at the next level, at least immediately. Maybe like halfway through the season, but I just don't think that he's the kind of guy that I would just hand the keys over to, my franchise. Like, he wouldn't be my franchise guy day one, and honestly, Trey Lance wouldn't be for me either. And so I guess really the 5th guy there, I'm kind of high on Kellen Mond, and this is basically why. I mean, you get a guy who is really the most experienced. He's the most experienced starter out there. So why not, take a chance on the most experienced guy out there in Kellen Mond? And you figure for him, Kellen Mond is, just, he was the MVP at the Senior Bowl. I personally feel like that's the kind of guy that needs to, go from there. So, that's what I got, Damon. So, what else we got to talk about today?
Well, I'm gonna, before I get into my top 5, I want to give a big shout out to Big Joe, man. If you guys don't know Big Show, the Big Joe Show, my man, he said his sleeper is Coastal Carolina Teron Jackson. As you know, he's a Coastal Carolina guy, man. He's like the go-getter out there. And I'm pretty sure that Coastal Carolina would agree with me that on my top 5, I think Zach Wilson's rated a little high. I think the Jets are jumping the gun here. I don't think he's the number 2 quarterback, to be honest with you. I think it's Trevor Lawrence. I think it's Justin Fields. I think it's you guys are going to hate me for this, and I don't care, but I'm going with Kyle Trask at number 3 from Florida. I watched him live. Kyle Trask is the real deal. I don't care what you say. He fits the ball in windows that no other quarterback's doing. Let him slip. I hope a team that can use a quarterback like the Saints or somebody will get him, because he'll end up being a 10-year starter. He's a stud. And then I'm going to go, what is that, 3? I'm going to go, oh, man. I'll give Zach Wilson 4, even though he looked horrible against Coastal Carolina, and they thumped them all game, and I hope my Bills thump the Jets the same way, so he gets flustered and throws a ball into the ground. And then last, I'm not even putting Trey Lance in my top 5, and I've watched small school football my entire career. I don't have him as a top 5 quarterback. I'm sorry. I think people are jumping the gun on him. I'm going to go Kellen Bond, my number 5. I'm going to go against the grain. But then again, I will tell you this too. I thought the Steelers drafting Landry Jones was a good pick, and I thought he was going to be a superstar. So if that makes your quarterback evaluation, you can thumb down me if you want. But at the end of the day, that's what I'm going with. So a big shout out to Big Joe and them. We have another question here. He wants to know, any thoughts on Minnesota will trade up for Trey Lance? Craig, do you want to take that one? Do you think they're going to trade up for Trey Lance?
I think Minnesota has 2 guys that they like. I was actually on a Vikings podcast not too long ago, and I said the 2 guys I think they want are Elijah Vera Tucker and or Jalen Phillips out of Miami, the DN. So I think those are the sites that they have their heart set on. I mean, Kirk Cousins, they still got him tied up. There's money in that. I know that they do have a lot of young players offensively, so the potential to bring in a quarterback like that makes sense to pair with Jefferson and Dalvin Cook and everything that they got going. But I just don't think that that's the move for them right now, to trade up and get Trey Lance. Now, all of a sudden, if we get to like pick 10, pick 11, and he's still sitting there, maybe if they really think that's the guy. But I really don't think that trading up for Trey Lance is the move for Minnesota at this point with their franchise.
Yeah, well, we're going to go right into it.
I'll be honest with you,
go
though.
ahead, Jimmy. Go ahead.
No, I just kind of feel like if a team is going to trade up for a quarterback, I think the Patriots they're the team. They're the kind of the wild card there, because obviously, yeah, they have Cam Newton there. And so, yeah, there we go. They got somebody who basically, had my train of thought there. So, and I think it just depends on who's there, like which quarterback is there and which quarterback really the New England Patriots want. Because this is just kind of my opinion. Okay, you don't let quarterbacks fall to you. Does that make any sense? Like, you got to be very aggressive in order for you to get the guy that you want, to lead your franchise into the future. I mean, I don't know if they really are completely like 100% in on Cam Newton. So, and that's kind of the whole thing. So, hopefully, if the Patriots do decide to take somebody, they trade up, get rid of some more picks, because I feel like in those later rounds they really do a great job of destroying the draft. So if they do trade up just maybe a hair to get whoever falls to them, whether it be Fields or Lance or Mac Jones, like there's your first possibility there for a trade up QB, in my opinion.
All right. Well, while we're on QB, let's go ahead and stick with a question here. Justin Fields this week, I mean, the rumor comes out, or I guess the truth comes out, I should say, not really the rumor, but comes out that he has epilepsy. I mean, is that a concern for you too? I mean, if you're going to draft him, do you have any problems with this? I mean, you got to think of it like this. I will say this just in his behalf, I think it's real messed up that stuff is coming out behind the scenes, like HIPAA information. I don't think that should come out on a player. We at Draft Diamonds, we do a lot of medical stuff on the background from the players that they give us. We would never publish that type of information to the media. I think it's I think it's insane that people are publishing this, but obviously there's a ploy, there's a way to try to get Justin Fields to drop to somebody, so they're willing to shoot at all costs. Maybe it's even an agent of another football player, Mac Jones. But I don't know. I'm just saying, maybe that's something that comes about. So at the end of the day, are you guys concerned about this epilepsy report?
I mean, me personally, I'm not. I look at it from a couple of different standpoints. One thing that came out in that information was that there are other family members of Justin Fields that have had epilepsy and that have grown out of it as they've gotten older. And then you look at him in college. If he would have suffered a seizure or had a major medical concern like that, that's something that would have been reported. He would have had to have most likely missed a game, different things along those lines. You can hide an ankle injury. You can't hide some of the effects of epilepsy. So I feel like if it was a major issue, it would have already popped out at this point, with his background. But also, I feel like the NFL is in such a weird place that half the teams will care, half the teams won't care. Because if you look at medical management throughout the NFL and its history, just giving someone a pill just to, manage symptoms is nothing new. So I'm not sure what Justin Fields, regimen is for managing his condition. But if it's just taking, one pill or whatever to balance out whatever it is that he needs to, I don't find it to be a concern. So for me, Justin Fields, the medical report doesn't change anything in my view.
How about you, Jimmy? You worried about it?
Honestly, no. I mean, the things that I would worry about is maybe if there was some reason why I wouldn't want to let him lead my team. If he did something maybe like to discredit his character, to that regard, like that might be a huge red flag for me. Or, I mean, maybe if there was like or an arm injury, something like that, that might have me concerned a little bit. But if you've watched this guy play, I mean, you're looking at probably the most. I'm going to just come out right out and say it, he is the most athletic quarterback in this draft class, and I'm putting him over Trey Lance because a lot of people would say, well, maybe it's Trey Lance, and so I just feel like Justin Fields, he is the most athletic guy. So maybe he's not as polished, perhaps, as some of these other guys as a thrower, as a pocket passer. But that's not. To me, it's just a matter of like what system you're going to be in the pros. So maybe this guy is able to get out of the pocket, fairly easily and distribute the ball. I mean, I'm not concerned about epilepsy. I mean, if he's able to control it, maintain it, I mean, if for whatever reason he may have an episode like on the side of, on the sidelines, then I might have a problem. But until that happens, I'm okay with him. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Got you, man. So we're gonna go ahead. I mean, we have another topic that I want to cover, and I think Craig will want to cover it as well. Who do you prefer at small school offensive tackle? Would you prefer Dylan Reduns or Spencer Brown? What player would you prefer right now? Me personally, I'm gonna pick. It's so tough. Spencer's such a dog, man. He's huge. He can bench like 525. You can find it on our YouTube channel. Dude's an animal. And then Dylan's just a proven starter, but I'm going with Spencer Brown. I'm going to go with Spencer Brown on this one. I feel like he is a little bit big, but he has the flexibility to move and to block. I'm going to go with Spencer Brown as this pick, but who are you guys taking? That's what I want to know. Jimmy, go ahead. Start us off.
Well, I mean, I will tell you, at least on my board here, they're neck and neck on my board. They truly are. I mean, I have them 51 for Dylan Redund, and 58 for Spencer Brown. And so basically what I'm saying is what kind of tackle do you want? Really, that's truly what it is. And I think the only reason why Spencer Brown drops just a smidge is he's a right tackle, and there is more desire to get a left tackle, in which that's what Redunz has done, and he's done a fantastic job of it. And it's really just the value at the position is just greater. And so yeah, I mean they're kind of neck and neck when it comes to value, in my opinion. I think Dylan Redunz was just so persistent throughout his career. I mean, and I think that might be another edge for him, because like he was a starter for a long time, and he wasn't like Spencer Brown where he came in and he pretty much had to grow into his body. I mean, Spencer Brown came into UNI. I mean, I think he was a tight end coming in, and he had to put on a considerable amount of weight in order for him to really be perceived as an offensive lineman, which he was able to put on that weight and really do a fantastic job and gain a whole bunch of strength. And I mean, I feel like he has the raw physicality that you really truly want, as a right tackle. But also with Dylan Redunz, I think that he's got great footwork. And great understanding of the game, which is really the kind of player that you want out there at left tackle. So he gets the nod, but only just by that much on my board. So, gotcha.
For me, I want Spencer Brown. Now, I understand the size concerns. He's almost a true 6'9". He's somewhere between 315, 320 consistently. But I think if there's a player that you should look at from a physical comparison, how they've translated into the league, it's Mike McGlinchey with the San Francisco 49ers. I know McGlinchey spent some time on the left side at Notre Dame, but when you look at the way that they move, the way that they play, I see a lot of similarities between the two. Like Jimmy said, Spencer Brown came into Northern Iowa as a tight end. He wasn't even 220 pounds, so he's put on 100 pounds. But I have a theory that the best offensive tackles don't always start out playing offensive tackle. They actually either play tight end or defensive end, which is actually what Dylan Radins went to North Dakota State as. Originally, he was a D end, and then they flipped him over to the offensive side of the ball. So both of them have extreme versatility. I feel like with Spencer Brown, you're getting someone that has the most untapped potential in this draft class. I feel like he's someone 3, 4, 5 years, once those rookie contracts start playing out, when we look back at this draft, we could say, damn, how do people miss Spencer Brown early on?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, he's a stud. So let's go ahead. I know we're FCS guys, D2, D3, NAIA, but don't let them slip and sleep on us because they talk about FBS on some other draft websites. Give me an FBS player that you're high on, that you're extremely high on, that other websites just aren't talking about. I mean, give him a little plug, man. Give him a couple seconds, plug him. Let people Google his name and find his film, because I believe that everybody needs to plug a player, and you got to stand on the table for somebody if you're in scouting. So this is your chance. We're going to call it stand on the table. If you can stand on the table for one player, FBS player, right now in the draft, who is that FBS player that you're going to stand on the table for?
I guess I'll go ahead. I'll go first. For me, I'm going to go to the Pittsburgh Panthers. I'm going to go to their defensive backfield, and I'm going with Damar Hamlin. Damar Hamlin's a multi-year starter for the Pitt Panthers. That Pitt defense has talent all over the place. You got Jones, Weaver, Jalen Twyman all on the D-line, Paris Ford. There's a million guys on that Pitt defense. There's guys for other drafts coming up. And I feel like Damar Hamlin gets lost in the shuffle a little bit. Like I said, he's a multi-year starter. He led the team in tackles 2 years ago. He actually has underrated ball skills. He doesn't have the interception numbers that will make you be like, oh wow, he's a ball hawk. But when you watch him high point the ball, track the ball, all the skills and tools are there. Like I said, he led the team in tackles a couple of years ago, so he's not afraid to come downhill and mix it up. He's just a true safety. He can come downhill. He can play on the edge if you need him to, even though he's not, a huge guy like Cam Chancellor. He can get it done in spot situations. Does have the range to cover on the back end. And when you get him matched up in man-to-man, he has a good understanding of body leverage. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but knows how to use his body, and he sticks with guys. So there's really not a flaw in Damar Hamlin's game. And if you want a guy that's going to play an easy 8 to 10 years and start for 6 of them, go ahead and draft Damar Hamlin somewhere late day 3.
Ooh, he pounded the table. Love it. Jimmy, who you pounding the table for?
Well, I'll be honest with you. The name that keeps coming to mind for me is Trey Sermon, who's running back out of Ohio State. And, I think a lot of people, they have like maybe their top 2 guys, maybe 3 guys there, when you're thinking about like your top running backs. And Trey Sermon gets forgotten. And I think that a lot of that comes from the fact that he ended up, he goes down with a leg injury, and I think maybe people kind of knock him for that. But when dude is healthy, he is very productive and very well rounded at that. I mean, you get a guy who's very strong, physical, has some speed, can really be he could be your first, the first guy on your board. He could be like your third down running back. I mean, he's the kind of guy that can go out there like as a receiver and really contribute. And not all these guys have that as part of their game. I mean, some of them do. Like Michael Carter, like he's a very good receiver, but I don't feel like he has the same kind of strength that Trey Sermon offers. So, I think Carter ends up getting drafted higher mainly because of his again, his speed, his versatility, and Sermon just kind of gets like a notch below him, because of, maybe perhaps like that injury sets him back a little bit. But I really like Trey Sermon. I mean, I really liked him coming into this year. I know he was like he was on the Senior Bowl watch list pretty early in that process, and who knows what would have happened if he would have stuck there at Oklahoma instead of transferring, or I mean, honestly, if he hadn't have gotten injured, maybe he would have been in last year's draft. So we'll see how that turns out. But he's the running back that I would really want. He's the kind of guy that reminds me of I don't know. This might be a lofty comparison, but like a Marshall Faulk type of guy where like I can trust him out there all the time, and I don't have to worry about him. And that's kind of, I mean, I know that's a lofty thing to say, so, but I feel like that's the kind of guy that could be out there all the time,
that was
in
lofty.
any given situation. So
that was lofty, my friend. Check your temperature.
Yeah, it's very lofty. But I'll tell you this: like, go back to his Oklahoma tape. Go back to the Oklahoma tape and see him perform out there, and you're sitting there wondering, who in the world is this guy? Because he just kind of got overshadowed, during his time there, and you watch him go out there and perform. I mean, he's probably not going to be there. Like he's probably going to be like maybe a 4th round guy. But I feel like I would pound the table for him at the beginning of the 3rd game. It's like if he is still there, like you need to go grab him because he can really help out like that whole team. So. I know it's crazy, but
my turn.
Hey,
my turn, Jimmy. I'm going with who I've been going with. I don't care what people have to say about him. I've said it in articles. I've done interviews with the kid. I've pounded the table all year long. Still, nobody's talking about him. I don't understand why they're not talking about him. But you're talking about, are you ready for this? A 4-year starter in a pro defense. 4-year starter, 6 foot, 195 pounds. Kid's a freak. 4.3 40, 40-inch vert, 11.3 broad jump. Yet nobody's talking about him. They got him going undrafted in all these mock drafts. Let me tell you something. You're nuts. You are nuts if you think this kid's going undrafted. I'm willing to tell you this right now. There are teams in there that are falling in love with him, and that is Illinois' cornerback, Nate Hobbs. Nate Hobbs is the man that everybody should be talking about. If I'm a team, I'm drafting him in the 4th round. I don't care what you have to say. He'll probably end up going in the 5th round, maybe even later. But I'll tell you what, whoever gets him is getting a guaranteed shutdown corner for the next 5 years. 5 years. You heard what I said. Guaranteed shutting people down for 5 years. He is a stud. I do not understand why people are not talking about this kid. I don't understand it. I honestly, he played for Lovie Smith for 4 years, started for 4 years. That's not easy to do at the FBS level. And then to come in and play at a high level, he's one of the most down-to-earth kids, probably one of my best interviews that I had. And I'm pounding the table for him all day long. If a GM calls me and says, give me a corner, a sleeper, and I'm telling him he's no longer a sleeper because I don't care. I'm going to keep talking about him until everybody sees it. So Nate Hobbs is a stud. The kid is by far one of my favorite players in this draft, and that's who I'm going with. We actually had a couple questions from Josh. The first question that he had, I'll let Craig answer, was Jabril Cox. He's the next prototype linebacker to cover the new age tight end. What do you think about that, Craig? You've watched both at NDSU and at LSU. What do you think? Do you think he can cover that new age tight end?
I remember the first time I saw Jabril Cox play. I was watching North Dakota State play. He was a redshirt freshman. He was starting at linebacker for them. And during that clip, they had said that he actually went to North Dakota State as a quarterback and transitioned to linebacker in his redshirt year. So he was starting as a redshirt freshman at North Dakota State after only having played linebacker for 1 year. And I remember hearing that and saying to myself, you got to remember whoever that kid is, because that's not something that happens a lot up there. And I get it, it's FCS, but us in our little FCS circle, we know what that means. So I paid attention to him, and he blew up. He was doing his thing last year, transferred to LSU in the grad transfer portal. And I think whether he knows it or not, he is that new prototype linebacker. And I think it goes beyond just the coverage. I just think he's the new prototype linebacker in the NFL, period. He's long, he's lean, he's quick. He doesn't give up any strength with that lean build. I mean, Jabril Cox just literally has everything that you're looking for in a modern-day linebacker. Because of the coverage skills, you don't necessarily need to bring in a DB to play that dime linebacker anymore, because Jabril Cox can do that, I think, with his pass coverage skills and athleticism. So, yes, whether he knows it or not, he's not only the prototype for covering tight ends, he's the prototype for linebackers in today's NFL.
Good answer on that one. We have another question from Josh. He said, is this the year that Green Bay makes a bombshell trade and gets a blue chip wide receiver for Rodgers? I'll go ahead and answer that. And I would say no. No, they're not. Listen, they drafted a quarterback instead of getting them a blue chip wide receiver. So I'm going to go ahead and say no. I think they'll probably end up going and getting a kid in the 2nd round, or maybe, you know what I mean? Maybe they'll get an Elijah Moore type or a Rondell Moore, a guy that can play the slot, a guy that can help them out. Then they have Devontae is a stud. I mean, I don't know where I would go, but I would say, to add somebody to the mix, I would say you need a slot, in my opinion. I would give him. Could you imagine Elijah Moore? That kid's so stupid fast. He would be a great pickup, or even like a Rondell Moore, who's little, a water bug. That's what I call him. I just stay put. There's a lot of wide receivers in this draft class. I don't think that's somebody that you have to trade up for. To be honest with you, I like Amir Marset. The kid from Iowa, he's about the same exact size. He's actually a little bit bigger than Devontae Smith. He has punt return and kick return skills. I'll guarantee you the Packers are going to look for somebody that has a return skills set. They're going to look for somebody with return skills. They need a return man. And at the end of the day, if they can get a wideout that can do the same thing, that can help with the return game, I think that's where they're going to go. That would be my suggestion on that. I don't know. I mean, do you guys want to chime in? Do you guys think they would bring in a wideout, trade up for a wideout? I know Jimmy was quickly saying no.
To be honest with you, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I understand like the person who commented and the reason why like you really want to do something with Aaron Rodgers because he's actually taking up 20%. He's taking up 20% of the whole salary cap for your team, which is just insane. So you got one guy out of like everybody on your team taking up 20% of your salary cap, which is just madness. But I mean, for a guy his age, he's out there. Obviously he is one of the top guys in the league. I mean, let's not discredit that. But yeah, I mean, they need somebody else. And if he was able to actually take some kind of a pay cut somehow, like maybe extend his contract a little bit just to create a little bit of room, I think that would really show that he's more of a team player. And yeah, like you said, Damon, they need a slot receiver, whether it's early and a guy like Kadarius Toney, or maybe Elijah Moore. I tell you, one guy that keeps giving me Green Bay vibes too is Amari Rogers, out of Clemson. Because I mean, I remember like I read somewhere that he was taking snaps at running back at his pro day, and the name that just keep popping in my head was like Ty Montgomery did the same thing. He came in as a wide receiver and eventually molded into a running back. So that's the name that just keeps popping in my head as a possible Packer. I mean, again, I think a slot receiver is going to happen. It's just a matter of when in the draft.
So let's just go ahead. I want to talk about. Let's name a bust, a guy that you feel is overrated, man. Let's do an overrated player. Just one quick overrated player. We have another question from Jacob. We'll get right to it. But give me an overrated player, Jimmy, and then we'll go from Jimmy to Craig to me, and then we'll get Jacob's question.
I know it sounds crazy to say this, but I think Christian Darrisaw, for some reason, it just keeps coming in my mind that he's a possible bust. Even though I continue to mock him to Washington, it just keeps coming in my brain as a possible bust. And and I think the reason being is it's just I don't know. Can I just say it's a feeling? Just a feeling. And it's not so much that I'm mocking him to my what I'm a fan of, but there's just something about a guy who really just doesn't really separate himself from the pack, so to speak, when it comes to his ability. He doesn't jump off the page, so to speak, as some of these other guys do. When you think of some of the other offensive linemen that are coming out, that's just my general feeling. I feel like he's just he's one of those guys that for whatever reason he's been up there for a while. A lot of people have been talking about him, but I just kind of get these feels that he's just not that great.
Okay.
I don't know.
For me, it's Devontae Smith, wide receiver from Alabama. When I watch Alabama play,
That's the easy
I say
one.
I want that guy, but it's for Jalen Waddle. I want nothing to do with Devontae Smith. When I watch that Alabama offense, I always say, yeah, I want that guy, and it's Jalen Waddle. Devontae Smith, to me, I tweeted something the other day, and I get it. It's an apples to oranges comparison because it's basketball to football. But Devontae Smith, 6 foot, 166. Allen Iverson, 6 foot, 167. Allen Iverson was small in basketball terms. So I get it. Size isn't everything. We've seen it now with the NFL getting guys in space. Smaller guys are doing things at a more alarming rate. And I'm not saying it's because he's frail. I'm just saying it's because I watch him play, and yeah, he makes big plays, but nothing about that to me says, yeah, that's going to work in the NFL. To me, it's a lot like the John Rosses and all the track guys we've seen before. It's like, yeah, you're super fast, but bro, you don't do anything with it. And that's just me. I just don't see Devontae Smith's game translating at the next level.
For me, the biggest bust is Kwity Paye. Michigan D-end edge. It's between him or Jason Owe from Penn State. I think both of them are bums. I don't know. I don't like their film. I can't like fall in love. I hope my Bills stay away from both players if they're looking at edge. Just my opinion. Like I said, I get that feeling. I watched the film. I disagree with Josh right here. He says that Greg Rousseau is the bust, but I'd rather have Rousseau than both Kwity Paye and Owe. I just think he's a younger prospect. I think he's long, strong, and I think this whole process with him falling, it's got to piss him off. And I think I'd rather take a guy with a chip on his shoulder than anything else. I had a question. I skipped over it on accident, and I didn't realize it. But Rob wants to know, what do you think Miami will do with their pick in the first round? I'm assuming it's what they'll do with Miami in the first round. So I can go ahead. I honestly believe that they're going to go Oregon tackle Penei Sewell. I think that's where they're going to end up going. What a better way you team up Tua with another poly guy and make him his blind side. I mean, the Dolphins could go Devontae Smith, but they just signed Will Fuller. They signed Will Fuller. They have Devontae Parker. They have Preston Williams, who's coming off a knee injury, who's probably back 100%. The Dolphins don't need a wide receiver. I don't know why you would need another wide receiver when you have Gesicki, who's going to play 4. At this point, I think deep down inside, I think you have to go offensive lineman. So that's where I'm going to go on that one. We had another question here. I don't know if Jimmy's having a little bit of technical difficulty, so bear with us here on that. But Jacob, he said Devontae Smith had bust written all over him. I kind of agree with that, and I'm sure everyone else does. But here's Jacob's question. Jacob says, who's the running back 3 this year in the draft? And Craig, I'll let you go ahead and answer your number 3, and we'll go ahead and break it down. Jimmy's back. So the question that we got asked by Jacob was, who is running back 3 in this year's draft class? We're going to let Craig go ahead and start it off.
So for me, the RB3 is Javonte Williams from North Carolina. I understand, like, with the whole North Carolina running back situation, it was Williams, it was Carter. So evaluating 2 running backs in a split carry system is sometimes difficult, but you can't always evaluate just like the flow of the game. You have to evaluate the player. Like, you can see the cuts, you can see the moves, you can see how they get their shoulders square through the line when they're going through the hole, the acceleration burst, all that stuff. And for me, when I was watching and Javonte Williams got his share, got his opportunity, everything just clicked. Everything checked off the box. And he's a guy for me that I definitely would want as a running back in this year's draft class. I'm not sure if it's Najee Harris or Travis Etienne, which one goes first. But I think outside of those 2, coin flip, your 1 and your 2, I think Javonte Williams is pretty much set as the RB3.
Jimmy, do you disagree? Jimmy, you got us back? You can hear us? I'll go ahead. I'll say this. You know what? When we're talking RB3, I'm not picking Javonte. I'm not taking Javonte Williams as my RB3. I think he's your RB2. I think Travis Etienne's your RB3. And to be honest with you, Etienne is just a speed guy. He's good, don't get me wrong. But every time I think of Etienne, I think of CJ Spiller. And I'm a Bills fan. So to have CJ Spiller, it bothers me. I don't think he's going to translate to the NFL. Yeah, he's the speed guy. He's the home run hitter. But I think Javonte Williams is the all-around back. I think them 3 are definitely the 3 superior backs in the draft. I think Najee Harris is the best. He's got a little bit more meat on his bones, same with Javonte Harris. And I think the little bit more meat's more like a Delvin Cook type of player. He can catch the ball. He can hit you. I don't see Etienne being that star. I believe he's going to take some time to develop. I don't know where he's going to go. I don't think a running back goes in the first round, to be honest with you. But I mean, Bills fans really want a running back, so maybe they will go there. But I think it's going to come down to best player available for them. But how about you, Jimmy? Who's your running back number
RB3?
3?
Well, I mean, I kind of agree with Craig on RB3. I mean, RB3 being Javonte Williams, but I'm actually curious as to where Najee Harris is actually going to land. I think it's kind of interesting because, it really starts. I feel like somewhere like in the 20s is usually where we say, well, here's the possibility where we could get a first round running back. So, somewhere in the 20s. And one of the spots that keeps coming to mind for me is the Steelers. Steelers could possibly take Najee Harris. And again, maybe you may not like it, but I mean, the Bills is a decent fit for Najee Harris as well. So those would be the two spots, like if I had to put him. But definitely agree with Craig with regards to like QB3 or not QB, running back 3 being Javonte Williams.
So Joshua wants to know, we're getting close to an hour. We don't want to keep it too much longer than an hour, but I mean, we will if you have questions. If you have questions, make sure you ask them so we can put them out. Big shout out to Alan. Alan runs Badass Masks. If you guys have never heard of it, it's a free shout out to him because he's been amazing over the career, back making them crazy looking face masks that look like, Predator and stuff and want to kill people. So that was Badass Mask. That's Alan. He's the owner of that. So it's a big shout out to him. He said ETN has the baddest ass mask in the whole draft. So that's cool. He must have made something for him. But we need to see pictures, Alan. So send it to us so we can share it on Twitter and stuff. Who's the late round quarterback that you would want to draft? Late round, meaning I'm assuming 5th to 7th. Is that fair? Mm-hmm. Who's the late round quarterback that you guys would take in the 5th to 7th? That you guys want to see? Give us one guy.
I already touched upon him a little bit earlier when we were talking about our quarterbacks. I threw in a bonus for the late round. I'm going to stay there again. I'm going to go back to SMU. I'm going to go back to Shane Buechele. He started off at Texas. He set records there. He played really well against the Big 12. You can go back and look at the touchdown and interception ratio as a true freshman in the Big 12. It wasn't alarming. It was at that 2-to-1 or better that NFL teams want at a minimum. So definitely you look at him there. He's grown. The accuracy is really good, always hitting guys in the numbers. You can go back and look at what he did with James Prochet and see what he did with NFL talent at the wide receiver position. Lets you really get a feel for how he might work in an NFL system. But for me, I like him just because his cerebral attack, his pinpoint accuracy. So for me, that's Shane Buechele. He's also a little bit better athlete than people think too. Oh, and his dad played pro baseball. Yeah. I love bloodlines.
Yeah, I think for me, the guy that keeps coming to mind for me is Felipe Franks. And I think the reason why I would draft him is simply because he's a good athlete. I don't think he's a polished, quarterback. You have a guy who's 6'6", 235, did very well in his pro day. For a guy at his size, running at about 4'6" is pretty awesome. And I think some people might say, hey, you have a possible guy here that could end up being like maybe a tight end maybe in the future. Like that's a possibility. But until that happens, I mean, I feel like he's a good enough quarterback with some decent experience there in the SEC against top competition. I mean, and let's just face it. I mean, had he gone to maybe some other place other than the SEC, who knows how much success that guy would have had. I mean, he's playing against the best competition that he can there. So, had he gone somewhere else, I mean, send him to I don't know, maybe out west at a Pac-12 school. I mean, maybe he would have done fantastic. But, that's kind of how I see him. I mean, very strong arm, just kind of needs to work through some of his, reads a little bit out there on the field. I mean, that's the late round quarterback that I would want. I mean, again, you're talking probably 6th or 7th round for him. But I think that if you're going to draft a quarterback late, that's the guy that you take. That's my guy. So I'd go with Franks.
All right. Well, for me, it's Ian Book, Notre Dame. I like him. He's small. I don't care. I mean, Doug Flutie comes to mind. The guy's a gamer. He wants to win. He reminds me a lot of Vernon Adams, who I don't think was given a true opportunity at the league level. But I think he's going to get a shot. And when he does, the good thing is Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray kind of threw that whole height of a quarterback thing out, and they kind of threw out a lot of other things. If you can play the game, they'll find you. And I think Ian Book brings that. I think, look at what he's done against the top offense or top defenses in the FBS. He did great. I mean, he's not the biggest guy, but he can make the throws. He has a heart. That's what it reminds me. Like Tyrod Taylor has heart. He might not be the greatest football player, but he never quits. And I think Ian Book's very similar to him as well when it comes to the heart of a football player. You want a guy that's going to perform and do whatever he can every day in every, practice and game that's going to come out there and play. And he's a fighter. That's what it's going to be. My man Igor came up with a question. He wants to know who the Ravens are going to take. But he wants to know not just the first round. Yes, he does. He wants the two first-round picks. So he wants to know where we think in the first round, do you think you guys, where they'll go, Ravens? How about you guys?
Well, go ahead, Jimmy.
Let me go ahead and take this one real quick since, obviously Ravens are in my backyard and they obviously end up
breaking up bad.
I'm breaking up bad. Okay, sorry about that. Tevin Jenkins, how's that sound? Can you get that through? I mean, obviously they just got finished.
You guys
getting
there
rid of
still?
their,
I don't know. We're losing connection here. I don't know if it's me.
Gotcha. I would say Tevin Jenkins is my guy. That's the guy that I would go with.
Can you hear me, Craig? Oh, no, it lost me now too.
You just get finished getting rid of Orlando Brown, so that'd be the guy that I would go with there. Obviously,
sorry guys, we're losing some connection. I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
Storming.
Hey, we're new at this. We're just, trying to roll with it, so it's all good. But yeah, I mean, you got to go offensive line with at least one of those two picks for sure. So.
Yeah, it got better. I don't know what happened there. The connection was like, the heck with us, man. They didn't like that answer, Jimmy. They didn't want an offensive lineman, so the Wi-Fi was like negative, kill them, and took us all out for a minute.
Yeah,
but
again,
hey,
they're going to need
what?
an offensive lineman.
I think I agree. They have to go offensive lineman.
Yeah, but I guess to kind of follow that up though, like with the second pick, I think it could be Creed Humphrey. I think it's possible. I mean, you get somebody to really help out, like take care of your offensive line. Take care of your offensive line, get that out of the way because you figure, you gotta protect your franchise. You gotta protect Lamar Jackson. So I think there are a lot of targets out there for him to throw to. So protect him because he's going to be your quarterback for the next 10 years. So get a guy out there at right tackle, pick up a guy like Tevin Jenkins. And then maybe for your second one, come back in, get Creed Humphrey, and really just kind of take over and really just solidify your offensive line, protect your investment in Lamar Jackson. So that's what I would do.
So you're saying do like the Buffalo Bills. So that's what protect Josh Allen at all costs. Well, y'all, exactly. I think we have a question. Hold on. Boom, look at this. We get D'Angelo Fulford question, man, going back a year. He wants to know about free agency guys, man. This is hey, it's that's what we do. So, a lot of these free agent prospects are hitting us up. They want their name out there, That's what we're going to do. We're going to keep pumping you guys out, obviously. But you know what? We're happy to do this. Our first time. We're kind of the end there sucked a little bit, but we'll get it better. We'll figure it out. If anybody has any more questions or you guys want to add anything else, we'll probably wrap it up. I agree with Justin. Justin said Justin, if you guys don't know, he's one of our writers too. He says, I think we need more than 5 people watching. Yeah, Justin, I agree. We got to figure out how to connect Twitter to it and go Periscope live. I don't know how to do that yet, so you guys got to work with me. Once we get them Twitter followers on here, I'm sure it'll be a lot different than 17 or 18, I think, that we ended up with in the beginning. But hey, it's a start. We're going to end up doing a mock draft here soon. We're going to come out here and give you guys a mock draft. We'll do the first round. We'll go through it. We wanted to see how we could do it, try to work out some kinks, obviously. It's our first time ever going live. We hope you guys enjoyed it. And if whatever we can do, this is what we want to talk draft. We want to interact with the fans. We want to hear what you guys have to say. And I know we don't always have the time to do it. So we thank you guys for coming out and listening. And Josh, he says, thanks for doing it. It was awesome. Guys, Josh, well, we appreciate you watching, man. Make sure you guys subscribe to our channel. Make sure you guys knock it out and, make sure you subscribe to us, man. That way we can keep feeding you guys. I appreciate it, Blaine. You guys have been awesome, man, with the questions. So we'll keep it up. We'll be back. Once again, make sure you guys follow Draft Guy Jimmy down here at the bottom. And make sure you guys follow Craig at @that_sports_guy. That's what my man always says in his podcast. Make sure you guys follow him. Check him out. He's on Anchor. He's on Apple. Make sure you guys follow it. You can find his stuff in our NFL podcast section. And on Jimmy's on YouTube, you guys can find all Jimmy's Zoom interviews. He interviews a lot of the best prospects in the draft. Same with Craig. They're interviewing prospects left and right. So make sure you guys check it out. Thank you guys for coming, and we'll be at it again, man. So stay tuned and be looking forward for us. All right. Thank you guys so much for everything. Jimmy and Craig, y'all have a good night, and get ready. Get your mock drafts prepared because these followers want to see it. Take care, you guys. It was a good night.
It was fun.
All right, man.